Azure, right? Where this account will get created, how this account will get an identity, from where this account will get an identity. Even if you are creating a free account on Azure portal, how this account for this particular person will get an identity. That is the first thing that we need to understand here. And if you will understand that, then we will fine. AAD is fine, but how AAD will provide that identification to this user? That is what our main goal to understand here. Okay, in order to understand that better, we first thing that we need to understand is there is a domain called as on Microsoft.com. Maybe you guys would have heard about it. Maybe you guys would not have heard about it. Not a problem. But now, as I've just told, there is a domain called as on Microsoft.com. Azure is the owner of that particular domain. Okay, first thing. Now, first of all, your Azure Active Directory. So when you are creating an account in Azure, IAM will get attached to your account, right? If you guys remember, so here is your arm. This is your arm, and you'll be having a IAM attached here, and there are multiple ways in which you can connect to your arm. If you guys remember, Azure portal, CLI, PowerShell, like this REST API, SDKs, and all those things were there. But there should be an active directory IAM mechanism that has to be there, which is in our case Azure Active Directory is there. So this Azure Active Directory should have some identity, right? This particular Azure Active Directory itself should have some identity, right? Now this identity, how this Azure Active Directory will get its identity. So this is how this Azure Active Directory will get its identity. Okay, I'm just removing this because we have already discussed in depth on to what I have just showed you guys. So what Azure will do, Azure will provide a subdomain from onmicrosoft.com, right? It can be the email address that you are using. With that, so you can write here username or user email address dot on microsoft.com. This is the domain that will be given by Azure to your Azure Active Directory. What? Your Azure Active Directory tenant. This is what we call as tenant. You guys would have heard about the word tenant. Now you understand what is the tenant itself, right? So it's a subdomain that will be provided by Azure to your Azure Active Directory from onmicrosoft.com domain, and we call that subdomain as tenant. Clear? Now, with this tenant or with this particular subdomain that has been provided by Azure, there is a service that will be connected, and they will be tightly coupled with each other. I'm just creating an layer inside which that particular service exists, which will be used to perform two operations. So there is a service that will be attached with this tenant. This particular service will be used to perform two operations. What could be those operations, guys? First can be authentication, and another one can be authorization, right? And this particular service will be attached with your tenant, right? And we call this particular service as directory service. Call this service as directory service. All right, guys. Both of them will be tightly coupled to each other, the tenant and the directory service, and both will work as a single unit in order to perform authentication and authorization for your account basically. Now there are specific protocols that Azure Active Directory will use. Okay, so when I'm talking about authentication and when I'm talking about authorization, this for authentication it will use OAuth, and for authorization it will use OpenID Connect. Just a extra knowledge that I'm just giving you guys. Okay, authentication, OAuth, authorization, OpenID Connect. All right, now these things are there. Now there are few features that we need to understand and differences from our on-premises. Okay, see, if you will ask me frankly, this Azure Active Directory is nowhere related to your on-premises Active Directory. Concepts can be same, but the ways are pretty much different. It's just a marketing strategy from Microsoft to to use the same lingo as Active Directory for this IAM service that Azure is providing. And that is the reason why they are calling it as Azure Active Directory. It is nowhere near to that Azure actual Active Directory domain services, which is actually running in your on-premises environment and the features that it is having. Okay, but it's just a marketing strategy in which Azure is using. They have to provide some IAM service for the services, for the users, for the groups that are inside the Azure, right? So for that reason only they have created it. So having said that, Azure Active Directory is a flat structure. Flat structure, the structure of Azure Active Directory is flat. When I'm saying that, you can imagine in the backend like a file. Entries will be made, and this is how your Azure Active Directory uh, keeps its data in the backend, right? So if, let's say, if this one line is a user, then you can create a group like this. In the backend, they'll maintain the things. So it is nowhere it is having a structured way. When I'm saying structured way, it is not having OUs, no OUs. You understand, right? I have shown you the OUs. So no OUs will be there. Hence, no GPUs will be there. In that case, if OUs are not there, what is the point having GPUs? Group policies, right? So no OUs, no GPUs, and it is an internet facing service. So no Kerberos will also be there. So Kerberos itself will not work. With that, no trust between two tenants will be there. We have seen we can create trust between two different domain controllers within two different domains. We can create forest level trust, but here no trust will be there in between two domains, in between two tenants. So when we are talking about Azure Active Directory, we will use the word tenant, not domain. So no trust between tenants, right? And but one thing that you will get is integrated federation services. But we have just discussed about Active Directory federation services and how it works and what are its features in your on-premises environment. And Active Directory federation services, basically it helps us to create a public endpoint for our internal, for our domain, our domain that we are hosting inside our private network. As this Azure Active Directory is a public facing service, we need an integrated federation services in that, so that it can start talking to other services which are running over the internet, right? So these are few capabilities and these are few differences from your on premises infrastructure, right? So flat structure and integrated federation services are main features that you need to keep in your mind regarding the Azure Active Directory. And if someone asks what is the difference, no OUs, no GPUs, no Kerberos, no trust between two tenants, then the how the things will happen if someone wants to talk to one tenant to another tenant, then we will see all those different scenarios how things will happen. Until now, are things clear, guys? Let me know yes, no, maybe, or any questions. I'll just take them. With tenant, please. Tenant is a subdomain provided by on Microsoft, subdomain which will be provided by Azure on Microsoft domain for your Active Directory, the IAM service that you will be using for your account. That is what tenant is. Each tenant is like a separate domain, but it's a subdomain of on Microsoft.com. I'll be showing it to you on Azure portal also. So don't worry on that part. Clear, Sunil? Balaji? Yes, no, maybe. So each user will get only one tenant ID. When you are saying tenant ID, uh, are you talking about domain or are you talking about their username? And what exactly you are talking about, Raghuvendra? So if you can be, username is different for each user. Inside that tenant, user one at the rate on my user one at the rate abc dot on microsoft.com, user two at the rate abc dot on microsoft.com. So each user will be having their own separate username and password. Yes, Office 365 will use same as your Active Directory, but a different tenant. If you are not, it completely depends on you how you which tenant you are using. Are you using two different tenants to manage your Office 365 and Azure services, or are you using one Azure Active Directory tenant in order to manage your Office 365 and Azure? So both can be done. Yes, you can have multiple domains under one account. You can have multiple domains under one account, not under one domain. That itself is a subdomain. Get more clarity, guys. Nagendra, you will get more Nagendra, you will get more clarity once I'll go to Azure portal. Okay, so I'll show it to you and I'll answer your question. All right. So let's understand one more thing. So there are few things that we need to understand on whiteboard, and then only we'll go to Azure portal and we'll perform all the activities at once. All the lab things at once will perform, so that you guys will be having all the clarity at once. What all things that we are going to do. All right. So just hang in there for uh, what can I say, for next 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then we'll go to Azure and then we'll perform the labs. Okay. Now, how your Azure Active Directory You guys remember RBAC, right? Don't say you guys don't remember. RBAC, RBAC. Yes, no, maybe. RBAC you guys remember, right? Now we will understand how this RBAC basically works with your Azure Active Directory. Okay, just understand. It's a very simple thing. Maybe you guys would have figured it out until now, but yes, again, I'm just going to give a brief idea about it. So let's say this is your subscription. Inside this, you can have resource groups. Let's say this is one more resource group. And inside that you can have resources R1 like this. Multiple resources can be there, right? This is your let's say this is your RG1, this is your RG2 subscription, right? Here where your users will get created, this is your Azure Active Directory, right? This is your Azure Active Directory where user resides. User will reside inside your Azure Active Directory. These are your users, right? Because your Azure Active Directory is your identity as an access module. Now if you want to keep multiple users in a logical grouping, then you can create a group like this. So these users can be in one group, these users can be in one group, right? So these can be your groups, and this specific one can be your user or users like this, right? Now if you guys remember, there was something called as RBAC, right? This RBAC was having some roles. I'm just going to specify three main roles. One was owner, one was contributor, and the third one was reader, right? So I'm just going to use these three roles. There are multiple roles, I understand, but just for making it simpler, I'm just going to do that. Now who you are going to assign this owner, contributor and reader roles? Either a user or a group. Simple. Either a user or a group. Then this subscription, don't you think, should trust this Azure Active Directory tenant which is provided by Azure Active Directory? So there is a trust between your Azure Active Directory and your subscriptions inside your account. All right. So this is something will be there. Otherwise, if this trust will not be there, then how subscription will allow the users from your Azure Active Directory tenant to give some RBAC roles, right? To give some owner roles, to give some contributor roles, to give some reader roles. So there is a trust between your Azure Active Directory and your subscription, so that you can assign them RBAC roles either to at resource level, either at resource group level, or either at subscription level, or there is one more abstraction layer above the subscription. What was that? Management group. And here also you can perform IAM. You have IAM section on at management group level also. And if you are giving someone access at the topmost subscription layer, which is management group, the access will get, it will get inherited. We know all these things. I'm just recapping all those things, right? So now you will get to know how your IAM, like identity as an identity and access management service on Azure, will work with the subscription in order to provide access by using RBAC rules. Clear, guys? Yeah, trust will be automatically created as soon as you will buy the subscription. Trust will be there. You don't have to worry about the trust. All right, so it will be almost already created. Now one more thing you guys need to understand, and there should be pretty much good clarity on this, otherwise you will get confused one more again. Azure Active Directory is what? Azure Active Directory, I am repeating it again and again and again. It's an identity and access management service. What it is? It is an identity and access management service. So it's a service which is performing identity and access management for your account, Azure account, right? So if it is a service, there must be some configurations, there must be some features of this particular service, right? In the same way, how you will be having virtual machine as a service, VM, virtual machine is what? It's a service. So it's not like that virtual machine, while deploying a virtual machine, you cannot make any changes. So the only difference between this virtual machine service and this Active Directory is like you can create and delete this virtual machine. You cannot create and delete this Azure Active Directory. So once you will create your first account, your Azure Active Directory will automatically be created and will be given to you. But it doesn't mean that it will not be having features, right? There can be multiple features. There can be multiple configurations. There can be multiple there can be multiple things that you can perform by using Azure Active Directory. So as it is a separate service, it will be having its separate roles. Okay. So when I am talking about RBAC roles, or when I am discussing about RBAC roles, it will be applicable, or these RBAC roles will be only applicable where and all it is getting applicable. Until now, until with your whatever the understanding that you guys are having until now, where and all your RBAC roles are getting applied. They will get applied at management group level, or they can get applied at subscription level, or they can applied at resource group level, or they can applied at resource level. But have I told anything about Azure Active Directory? There are multiple things that we can perform in Azure Active Directory. But what those roles are called? What are those? And how we can assign those roles? How we can assign those different roles to different person? So then a concept called as Active Directory roles will come into the picture. This Active Directory roles. So for an example, I'm just giving you a small example. There is something called password reset. Very simple example, password reset, right? Password reset. We are not talking about self-service password reset, guys. I'm just talking about password reset. Who can perform this password reset? How many people here can perform password reset? And who will decide that who can perform password reset, or who can be a simple user? How you are going to make a differentiation on that? Okay, admin, fine. There is an admin who is global administrator. Global admin. In a company of 5,000 employees, will this person be able to perform this action, password reset? Only single person, or only let's say 10% who are global administrators. First of all, you should not keep multiple people as a global administrator, because this particular person will be having all privileges on Active Directory also and all the subscriptions also. So what you will do, you will assign a role. So let's say I have created a group who can perform password reset. So password reset group, or password reset admin. Password reset admin is this group, and I only want to give this set of people the access to reset the password. So we have an AD role which is called as password administrator, right? I can give this role to this particular group, so that people inside this group will be having access only to reset password for other users if a request comes into the picture. Getting the point? Now this AD roles, as I was discussing, is same as RBAC roles, but these AD roles are only applicable on Azure Active Directory. Are you able to differentiate between AD roles and RBAC, guys? Yeah, Sunil, user administrator, you are right. So I'm just like telling one, like I'm just taking one administrator role name and I'm just going to use that. So where you are missing Ajay, tell me. I'll discuss that part because discussing complete part will take more time. So our back on subscription. Yes, yes, Balaji. And AD roles are for Active Directory specific features, or if you want to enable someone to use some to work on some specific to work as a some specific administrator on inside the Azure Active Directory, will use AD roles. Yes, a user can have both the roles. So Ajay, very simple. RBAC roles are only for management group, subscriptions, resource group, and resources. Azure Active Directory roles are only for working on Azure Active Directory. All right, this is simple one-liner differentiation. Now, if I want to show you more on this, can global admin be a group, or does it needs to be one person only? I think it can be a group also. Okay, Christian, completely possible. It can be a group. Any priority? Like what priority you are talking about, Vijay? On what part? Meanwhile, just check this out. Under this roles and administrators, if we'll go under Azure Active Directory, we are inside Azure Active Directory. I am inside roles and administrators. So you'll be able to see multiple AD roles that has been created by Azure Active Directory, inbuilt AD roles that has been created by Azure Active Directory, so that you can assign these roles to a user and a group. Application administrator, application developer, sorry, authentication administrator, attribute definition reader, right? Azure DevOps administrator, billing administrator, right? Directory reader, directory writer. So more, all of these roles are attached or are connected directly to different features of Azure Active Directory, and who can access those features if we will assign those roles to them. All right. Here you can see the description. Application administrator can create and manage all aspect of app registration and enterprise apps. Right? This person or this group to whom I will assign as an application administrator, they will only be able to perform this task, not and they will not be able to perform other tasks. So that is something that is there. So that is where there is a difference between Azure Active Directory roles and RBACs. So if you will try to understand RBACs, so for that you need to go to subscription, and where you will be able to see the RBAC roles. Go under access control, go under roles, and this is your RBAC roles: owner, contributor, reader. So you can assign these roles to a subscription, management group, resource group, or resources. These roles will not show up inside Azure Active Directory, and Azure Active Directory roles will not show up inside your RBAC roles. So both are separate from each other. They are same as RBAC roles, but AAD roles will be only used for assigning different capabilities to a user or a group in Azure Active Directory. RBAC roles will be used to assign different roles to a user and a group inside your management group, subscription, resource group, and resources. Okay, that is how it will work. Now, going to the next part of the things. What will the preference if I assign two different roles at Active Directory? Sunil, again, the same thing what I am saying. There is no connectivity between AD and RBAC. If you want to give a user as a global administrator, or if you want to give a user to reset a password as well as to have access of subscription, those two are two different things, right? And you are giving them the access of the both. So if you are giving them access of the both of the things, so he'll be having access of the both of the things. If you are removing one of the access, then he will only be having he will be only having access of the things that he is left with, right? Vijay, permissions will not overlap. Where permission will overlap? Tell me. Give me a scenario where you think a permission will overlap. Can admin creates their own role? Only global administrator can create new roles. Apologies, my question was another one. Uh, I mean, I didn't get it actually, Vijay. What you are saying? Just reframe your question and put it in a single message so that I will understand. Uh, Roles will not overlap. That is how not they have been designed by Azure. Okay, so they will never overlap. So that is something that is there. Now, before coming here, let's discuss one more thing. What is the use of AAD? You were not there on the class, Ashish. When you have joined the class, Ashish, today's class. Check the recordings, Ashish. AAD is not related to subscription or management group. No, Azure, it is related. There is a trust between AAD and subscription. So then only users from AAD will be able to, you will be able to provide RBAC roles at subscriptions and at resource group level or at management group level, right? All right. So let's proceed further and understand the next concept. When you are talking about RBAC roles, there is no concept of RBAC roles or AD roles in on-premises. Yes, it is only on cloud. And right, Sunil, what you are saying there. All right, let's proceed further, guys. Okay, so there is something called as Azure B2b and B2c. What are they? Where is the difference? Let's try to understand that, right? B2b and B2c, or it is better like that only. So okay, let's come up here and understand this. So right now I have two different companies, right, which is using Azure Active Directory as their identity and access management services. For an example, xyz.com, and for an example, abc.com, where they are, what they are using as identity and access management solution, they are using Azure Active Directory. So both of them are running on Azure Active Directory. Azure Active Directory. Now they must be having their users inside them, right? Users, groups, this and that will be there, right? Now here also they'll be there. Now in this scenario, what happened? This abc.com had tied up with ABC, sorry, this xyz.com or abc.com has tied up with each other. Now they want their users to have access of their resources. So abc.com will be having some resources, right? uh, abc.com will be also having some resources, xyz.com will also be having some resources. Now they want their users, so this xyz.com wants abc.com users to come and then work on their resources, and abc.com also wants to do that, right? What is happening right now, what is happening, if you guys understand, if you guys remember what we have discussed in on premises, so this is a example of forest level trust, right? But here, as I have told you, there cannot be trust between two tenants. Just now I have discussed, right? So xyz.com running on Azure Active Directory, it's one tenant. abc.com running on Azure Active Directory, it is another tenant. And there cannot be a trust between two tenants. Then how things will work? So there is a solution that Azure has provided. What you can do is like you can invite users from other Active Directories so that they can be part of your Active Directory. So you have invited this user to be part of your Azure Active Directory. And now once this user is part of your Active Directory, but how? You are inviting the user from another Azure Active Directory which resides in another Azure Active Directory. Okay, let me write it once. You are inviting the user, sending an invite to this particular user. Please come and be part of our Azure Active Directory. And now once this user is part of your Azure Active Directory, rest of the process is pretty much clear. We can give them access to our resources by using RBAC. And this whole process is called as Azure B2b, Azure Business to Business. Okay, this is what the concept of Azure B2b is. Now, when I'll go down, now, is it possible for all the companies to run on Azure Active Directory? Not all the companies will be running on Azure Active Directory, right? But in a case where there is a company called xyz.com which is using Azure Active Directory and it is having its own users and all those people will be there who is working on Azure Active Directory and their resources. Now they want to hire some expert. So there is something, there is some specific requirement comes into the picture where they need some expert, but for some time only. As a contractor, they want to hire this particular person. But this particular person, so let's say this is that person, right? This particular person is having some specific skills which is needed by this xyz.com to perform some task. But this particular person is not part of any Azure Active Directory. He's only having a username, like for an example he's only having a Gmail ID, for an example alex321@gmail.com. This is the user ID that this particular person is having. Now can this person be invited? Can we invite this particular person in our Azure Active Directory? Yes, we can invite this particular person in our Azure Active Directory. So what you need to do, you just need to send an invite to this particular person to become part of your Azure Active Directory. And once that invite, that particular person will accept your invite in via the email box, then he will become your Azure Active Directory member. Once he will become your Azure Active Directory member, where the authentication is happening, authentication where it will happen for this particular person, where it will happen, guys, tell me. Who will perform the authentication task for the first time? Correct. And Gmail, right? Google domain controller server will provide the authentication part first time when this particular user will become a part of this xyz.com, right? And why it will perform? Because gmail.com is a domain, but the authentication, so they must be having their federation servers running. So at their public endpoint, it will just confirm, okay, this is a person who is part of my domain and I am authenticating, like he is there in my domain. All right, I am authenticating the originality of this particular person who is part of my domain. So now he becomes the part of this particular domain xyz.com. Now you can, as an administrator, you can start giving him access to the resources. Once you are done, you can remove this resource, just you can remove this user just by deleting this user. Delete him or remove the access if you want. If you, maybe in future, if you want to again rehire him, you need to perform the same process again. So why to go for the same hustle? Just keep him here, but remove all the access, all the rules, so he'll not be able to do anything else. So again, invite will be sent, and this particular process is called as B2c, business to consumer or customer. For authentication happens from Gmail. What is the next step? Once the authentication will happen, then Azure Active Directory will understand this is a legitimate user. I can add this particular user in our Azure Active Directory. Once this user will be inside the Azure Active Directory for the resources that are inside your subscriptions. For that, once the access will be given, then your Azure Active Directory will start performing the authentication and authorization, because he is part of now Azure Active Directory. But for the first time, there should be someone who should authenticate that user, right? He is an authenticated user, so that you can go ahead and add in your directory, right? Post the invite. That's what I have just discussed, Ajay. Right? You got it, right? So what about others? Are you guys clear? A to B to B, B to B, B to C. Yes. After post invite, once it is added, then authentication and authorization will start happening on AAD. So that is how this AAD and Azure Active Directory, B2b and B2c. This is what these are. This is where the difference is. So basically, in a nutshell, user from another Azure Active Directory, if you are inviting, we are actually doing Azure B2B. Users from some other domain itself, if you are users from some other domain, when you are saying he is having its own identity in some other domain, gmail.com, hotmail.com, yahoo.com, any of them, like LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever it is, but not on microsoft.com, right? Then this Azure B2C will come into the picture. Now the next thing that we need to discuss here is AD join. Okay. My God, 1 second, guys. What is this AD join? So B2C is the individual who is having identity, but not on Microsoft.com or any Azure Active Directory. All right. That is what B2C is. B2B is for the users who are part of some Azure Active Directory. You can just invite them from one Active Directory to another Active Directory. Now we have this Azure Active Directory again. So this Azure Active Directory can not only invite users or can manage users and groups, it can also manage devices. Okay. So when I'm saying devices, what are those devices? So there should be some type of devices that should come into the picture, right? So all laptops or desktops which are running Windows 10 operating system and Windows 11 operating system comes under the definition of devices when I am talking about AD join and the devices which your Azure Active Directory can manage. Okay. So if you have a laptop on which your Windows 10 or Windows 11 is running, you can actually add this particular laptop as a device inside your Azure Active Directory, and this we call it as AD join process. Once your laptop is part of your Azure Active Directory, we have a solution called as MDM solution. MDM, Microsoft Device Management, I believe that is what the full form of this MDM. And this MDM solution on Microsoft is called as Intunes. I'm not going to discuss on Intunes. This is a specific course itself. A lot of things are there inside the Intunes. But yes, there is something called as Intunes, which act as a MDM solution on Azure Active Directory in order to manage the configurations to manage these devices. But to manage these devices has to be part of your Azure Active Directory. And to become mobile device management, right, Sunil? I was actually forgetting it. So I have worked on MDM pretty much earlier, not on Intunes. There is something called mobile Aaron. I have worked on that. So yes, mobile device management. So this Intunes basically is a mobile device management solution which is integrated with Azure Active Directory. So we call this as Microsoft Intunes. This Intunes is a product of Microsoft itself. So once the devices will be joined to your Azure Active Directory, and devices which is having Windows 10 or Windows 11 operating system will fall under devices. Then once these devices are joined to this Azure Active Directory, you can manage these devices. You can patch these devices if you want to make configurations on these devices. And the users which will be part of this Azure Active Directory, for these users, they can access applications on these AD joined devices, and for them they need not to provide credentials again and again. So once, for one time, once they will authenticate, they need not to provide their authentication again and again. So that particular, so it will provide something called as single sign-on experience to the users of this Azure Active Directory in AD joined devices. All right. So for an example, if you have logged into office.com, you need not to again log in for let's say uh, word.office.com, excel.office.com, outlook.com. You need not to again every time you need to verify your authenticity inside on this particular device which is AD joined. Once you have performed the authentication, then for a certain period of time you need not to give that credentials again. But yes, we can manage it. After certain period of time you need to provide that authentication. You need to provide who you are after a certain period of time, but within that certain period it will not happen. And then SSO, so basically that particular that experience where you are not providing your credentials again and again, that experience is called as SSO single sign on. All right. SSO and OD join are same. It does it look like same, Siddharth? It is not same, right? So to have this SSO experience, you need to join your device to AD, right? So first AD join has to be performed. Once AD join will be performed, then this SSO will start happening. Okay. So if you'll go to settings here, let me just show it to you. This is Windows 10 laptop, right? Let me try to show you here how we can join. Yes, Raghavendra, you are right. So here where I need to go, there is something called accounts, uh, work and school. And if I'll click on connect here, it should give me a prompt. Let's see. Can you see this option? Join this device to Azure Active Directory. Click on this. And then provide your username and password for your company. I'm not going to do that. Provide username and password for your company. This is your username. Next will be your password. And once you will be logged in, then it will show you here. This laptop is part of this particular Active Directory domain, tenant or domain, Active Directory tenant basically. And where you will be able to see it. So if I'll open this, so this is my Azure Active Directory, the one I'm using. So under devices, left side, I think fifth, sixth option, under devices, you will be able to see that particular device. So let it come up. This is a different Azure account that I'm using today because this is having P2 license. We'll discuss more about P1 and P2 licenses. So yes, so right now I don't think so there is any devices that is added to this Azure Active Directory. So let me show you my Azure Active Directory. My account's Azure Active Directory. So this is my account. And if I'll go inside Azure Active Directory, then I'll go to devices. Two stale devices are there, which is actually not connected. So I have removed the connectivity from this Azure storage account. But yes, two stale devices are there. But this is how it will show up. Check this out. See, this is how your devices will show up. AD joint devices, right? And if you want to manage, you need to select it like them. Right now, they are not connected basically. MDM is none. So what you need to do is like you need to subscribe for in tunes, then only you'll be able to manage your devices. So there is a you can see there is a nut here, right? So you can use this manage button to manage your devices inside your Azure Active Directory. Now as we are on this particular page, let's discuss about this. So let's go to let's use this only. So here under overview, what all things that you are able to see: default name is default directory. The name of my tenant is default directory. What is the primary domain name that I have just given, that I have been given? What is my email address? Can you see? My email address is kumar.manglam007@outlook.com, right? And the domain name that has been given, this is, they have taken the first few characters from my email ID, and then they have given a, subdomain on Microsoft.com domain. Correct? Yes, no, maybe right, guys. Clear? Now here it is showing how many users that are existing inside my Azure Active Directory, how many groups that are existing inside my Active Directory, how many applications, how many devices, and what kind of license that my Azure Active Directory is under, which is very much important. So for me, this is under Azure Active Directory free license. Can you see there are multiple features on the left hand side? We have multiple features. We have multiple sections. So basically these sections are not just to see, right? They will be having for specific purposes, right? Now, before understanding the license part, now check this out. This is your primary domain, right? So now if I will create any user onto this particular domain, so if I'll go to users and if I'll create any user under this particular domain, what kind of username and what kind of domain name that it will be provided to? It will be provided as a demo to the username at the rate. This is my domain, the tenant name that has been provided to me. Is it looking good? What do you guys think? If you are part of a company, for an example tcs.com, right, and you are going to move to Azure, you are going to move to Azure, and the first domain, let's say I have only created first tenant which I am going to use for tcs.com, and it is giving me this particular this kind of domain name for me when I'm creating users. So it is not, uh, this is not looking good, right? So I need a user that has to get created with the domain name at the rate tcs.com. So whenever I'll create any user inside this particular Active Directory, the user has to get created with demo2 at the rate tcs.com, like that. So in order to achieve that particular scenario, what we need to do is like there is an option called as custom domain names. There is an option called as custom domain names. So here you can add that particular domain and then you need to verify it. So if you are adding a domain and if you want to use that particular domain, basically you are owning that particular domain. That is the reason why you are going to add it and then verify it. So what we have to do is like you need to come up here and add. So I need to type tcs.com like this. So now I'll click on add domain. Now here if I'll go to my directory again, if I'll go to custom domains again, here tcs.com has been added, but it is not verified. If once it will be verified, then it will be available like this. It will give a green tick available. Then how to verify this? So you need to open it and you will get record types as txt or mx record types. So what you need to do is like you need to log into your domain registrar from where you have bought this tcs.com. There under DNS management, you need to provide this text txt record. So at the rate, this should be the ms, this is just a, uh, like this is just a small code. so that your domain registrar will know that this particular person wants to host tcs.com in Azure Active Directory. Okay, so then only it will allow your Azure Active Directory, then only it will allow the tcs.com to get added under Azure Active Directory. So for that particular reason, for verification and providing proof to that, providing proof and letting the domain registrar know that you are going to host this tcs.com in your Azure Active Directory, you need to create this record, the one which is given here, not any other record. So you will just copy the values here, copy to clipboard, paste it there, and it will take 24 to 38 hours, or sometimes it will take 48 hours also to get verified. Once it will get verified, after 24 hours or 48 hours, you just come up here and click on verify. Once it will get verified from domain registrar end, it will also get verified here. Okay, and once it will be verified, this tcs.com will be under available state. And once it will be under available state, then what will happen, you can, once you will try to create a new user in this way, the one with the way in which I am showing you here, if you'll type Alex, and then you, if you want to select tcs.com, then here your tcs.com will show up. Then once, what will happen, once the user will get created, user will be having a username as alex at the rate tcs.com, not alex at the rate kumar mangalam 007 outlook dot on microsoft.com. Clear, guys? Concept of custom domains, how you are going to add it? Yes, no, maybe. uh, Manushri, briefly, if you will ask what is Intunes, Intunes is just a solution to manage devices. And devices, when I am saying Windows 10 laptop and Windows 11 laptop. If I'll go in details, like lot of things are there. Okay, so if you want to know more on Intunes, just give a small Google search, you will get more idea about that. Okay, but it's a separate course itself. Okay, so these things are there. Now what is the next thing that we need to discuss? Okay, uh, let me check. What to 4 devices? Yes, I have added 4 devices earlier. That is what it is showing. Will it require any documentation for verification? That is that particular I showed you that record. That is, that will work as a documentation for verification. That is the that is for verification only. Okay, so you just need to provide this under your domain registrar DNS management. You need to create a record, txt record, with that particular, with those particular details. Then it will work. Okay, now all right.
Hello, am I audible, guys?
Okay, by mistake I just removed that headset only. Does AD works with everyday environment when we have ADDS in Azure? Yes, it works. Okay, but your voice tone changed. Now is it fine? Because I just removed it by mistake and I don't know. I think it should be fine now, right? Okay, so there are there is some demonstration I am going to show you guys. But before that, let's discuss one thing which I need to discuss, is basically Azure Active Directory storage. Okay, those are different things. Is AD mandatory for two companies to share the resources? No, it's not mandatory. Any alternate? alternate for invite user. No, there is no alternate. Whatever the things that are there, without AAD, you will not be able to work on Azure itself. Okay. Mm, all right. So this is the thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys before moving further for our labs and all. All right. I cannot share the PPTs, guys. I have told multiple times the same thing, right? Now check this out. Azure Active Directory editions. Okay. Inside Azure Active Directory, there are multiple features. In order to use those features, if you are getting more features, you need to pay more. Simple as it is. And that is how Azure Active Directory also works. So there are multiple editions of Azure Active Directory in that case. So you remember SKU, stock keeping unit. This editions is you can understand the concept of editions in the same way how the concept of SKUs were there, right? But they have just used a different lingo. Editions, same thing only. If you are using more features, you are paying more. So it's a higher SKU, lower SKU, mid SKU. In the same way, you have a free edition, Microsoft Office 365 applications editions, premium P2 edition, and premium P1 and premium P2 editions. And these are different features that are available. Okay, inside different editions. So if you're going with free editions, you have directory objects, so you can create users, groups, this and that, and single sign-on will be also available. Core identity and access, that is the reason why your IAM itself is there, so that it can provide core identity and access management service. And you can also perform B2b collaboration, so you can invite users from other Azure Active Directory. But if you want to also manage users from your Office 365 account, Office 365, then you need to go ahead and buy Microsoft Office 365 apps edition of Office 3 of Azure Active Directory. And if you need more features, then you should go for premium P1 or premium P2. So there are something called as premium features like self-service password reset, multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication will anyhow be available under free also, but yes, these are premium features. Self-service password, self-service password reset, multi-factor authentications, hybrid identities. So what we can do, we can bring our on-premises users to Azure Active Directory by using something called as Azure AD Connect. Azure AD Connect. So we can use this Azure AD Connect in order to bring our on-premises users to our Azure Active Directory. And those users are called as hybrid users or hybrid identities that will only supported under premium P2 license, premium P1 license. Sorry, there is something called advanced group access control. So here, so now from now on, these features are there can be multiple kind of scenarios in an production environment, or in an environment where a lot of things are happening. So this the advanced group access feature is one of those features which will act in a specific scenario wherein what will happen. Earlier, what used to be there is like, if okay, let's say we have 10 users like this. Okay, these 10 users, so someone can be someone can have idea about two things, someone can have idea about multiple things, someone can idea about only one thing. So this person can be multi-skilled, this person can have only one skill. Like to When I'm saying skill to, this person is much, it is he's more uh, um, he's more like how can I tell this thing, he's more comfortable in working on one thing, and this person is more comfortable on working on multiple things, right? In that way, the skill set differs in multiple people. So what will happen here, So as you will start working inside an organization, your manager will start understanding your skill set, and depending upon that, they will start assigning you tasks, right? So for an example, there is for an example, for a task A, B, C, and D, you need to have different accesses. A, B, C, and D will be having, let's say, to access this A resource and to perform a task, you need to get one access. For B, you need to get another access. For C, you need to get again one access, and for D, you need to get one access. So it is possible that this particular person may be having more idea about all the resources, or all the things, or all the requirements that needs to be done in order to manage these resources. So this particular person will be given access to all the resources like this. Okay, but once the access will be provided and the work will be done, everyone will forget to remove the access, right? But that should not happen, right? What happens if this person's identity will get if this person identity will get hacked? Then the hacker who is hacking this person's identity will have access on all the resources. I'm just giving you few example of the things, right? So this person can have access to lot of things. He's very good in his domain, so he knows all those things and all the access has been given. But there should be a mechanism which will check access of each and every person inside an organization, and there should be someone provide them who should provide the approval that this particular person can have this access, or I want to remove the access of this particular person. So at that particular, in those kind of scenarios, your advanced group access will come into the picture. Okay, so this, by using this feature, there will be a monitoring of the accesses that a user is having, and that monitoring will be done by Azure Active Directory, and the approval will be sent to its immediate manager, so that that particular manager can approve or deny. So yes, access review, basically that's what I want to say. But just by giving some, I was just giving some scenario on that part. So like that, conditional access. So if you want some person from one specific IP address, so if you want to allow people from one specific IP address or IP address range to access your Azure account, you want some person from a specific location, persons from a specific location only should access your Azure account. Persons from specific apps, when I'm saying apps, portal.azure.com is one app. Your mobile, in your mobile also you can download an Azure application, from that is another application. There can be multiple applications, SaaS applications. So I only want um, Salesforce people only to have access to my Azure account, so that they can have authentication and authorization services. So in the same scenario, there can be what are different conditions that can be there. Okay, there can be a group of users for whom I want to perform conditional access. So this group of users, they are contractors. So once they will try to access resources on Azure, they should perform multi-factor authentication. So every time, so when I'm saying multi-factor authentication, at least two authentications they need to perform. Either they one, see, normally password will be there, but with password they need to provide one more authentication, right? So that is that will fall under multi-factor authentication. So the if I want to create this kind of scenario, or if I want to use, if I'll use this conditional access feature of Azure Active Directory, then I can perform all these things. And these two features are pretty much advanced features: identity protection and identity governance. Okay, so it will use advanced machine learning features in the backend in order to predict and detect if some malicious activities, malicious sign-ins that is going on in the backend. And with that, it will also perform so I'm not going to get in depth into all these things, because these two are very big thing. I cannot just give few two liners or three liners in order to discuss on these two things. So that's why I'm just giving you little bit idea about this, not more than that. So these two are very advanced features of Azure Active Directory, and to use these features we need to pay. Okay, how much we are paying, that is the next question, right? So just see this, there you will be able to find, as you can see, what all features that you are getting extra in premium P2 and premium P1. Only two features extra: Azure identity protection and identity governance, as you can see here. But if I'll go to Google and if I'll type Azure AD editions pricing, and if I'll scroll down, this is in USD. I'll change to INR and I want to show you the difference. Check out the difference. If you're using Azure Active Directory Premium P1 license, then you are paying 450 rupees per user per month. But if you are using Azure AD Premium P2 licenses, you are using you are giving 675 rupees per user per month. So there is a huge difference between P1 and P2. So as an Azure Active Directory administrator, you need to be pretty much clear inside your head while assigning the licenses to the user. If you're even if your Azure AD is in premium P2, the license you have used is premium P2, but for the user whom you are assigning the license is not using identity protection or identity governance services, then you do not assign them a premium P2 license, rather than you assign them a premium P1 license. Because if you are using, if your Azure Active Directory is under premium P2 edition, then you also have premium P1 licenses and premium P2 licenses, both the licenses you will be having. What I mean to say is, like, if you'll go up here, if I'll go to Azure Active Directory, 1 minute, okay guys, let me show this to you guys. Now let's come to portal and start doing few things. Yeah, Raghvendra, it is access review only. It's not same as access review. It is access review. Yeah, we can have both licenses. Just check this out, Ajay. I was about to show you that only. So here, uh, just give me 1 minute, guys. I'm just setting up one thing so that we can see few things and we can perform some labs. So portal.azure.com. Okay, this is actually directly signing me in because I am already signed into my Edge browser. So, okay, I'll use a private one. Here, it will actually prompt a username and password. So what I want to do is, like, I'll create a new user, okay, and I will show you what experience they will be having when they will try to log in, okay. And before doing all these things, this is the Azure Active Directory which I'm using, okay, and the, as you can see here, license is Azure AD Premium P2. So if you'll scroll down here in the right side of the screen, and if you'll go to licenses, if you're having a free trial account with you right now, then you can do that. So you just need to go under licenses, you need to go under all products like this. uh, I think featured licenses. self sign in service. Yes, in all products, if you'll go to all products, sorry, I got a little bit confused. So you have to go under all products. So here I have Azure Active Directory Premium P2 license. So how many licenses I have? 100 licenses I have, in which one is assigned, 99 are available, and it is 100 will get expired once this Azure Active Directory Premium P2 will go. How you can try or buy? You need to click on this. Okay, so what will Azure will give? It will give you a trial Azure AD Premium P2 licenses for 30 days, only for 30 days, and after that you will not get it. Only it will be active for 30 days and 100 trial licenses will be given. So if you're having a free account on your Azure, you can come to this place under licenses, all products, try, and then under Azure P2, you can click on activate if you are not using Azure Active Directory Premium P2 license until now. Once it will get activated, you will be able to see a Azure Active. It will take 5 minutes to 10 minutes of time to get activated in the backend, and then you will get 100 licenses here. Okay, so that is one thing. Now the next thing is how to create the user. So you will come up here and click new user. So when I'll click on new user, then you will be able to see you have users also and you have invite users also. So this invite user is for B2b B2c. This one is to create a new user inside your Azure Active Directory itself. The tenant name is Akshay 904531 outlook dot on microsoft.com. This is a separate tenant, this is a different tenant, or this is a different account that I'm using. The reason, because this is having Azure Active Directory Premium P2, because I want to show you guys few labs on self-service password reset, multi-factor authentication setup. All right, so I want to show you guys and how users will get that experience once the first time they will try to log in, and when you will enable here, what is the difference in the experience what they will be having. So these all things I want to show you guys. So I'm going to create a user. Let me just check like what all users are there, because I have created few users already. So demo 1, demo 2, Alex is there. So today we will use J. So I'll create a user named J. Okay, first name J. Let's use Maxara. Okay, and you can create a password, or you can auto generate a password. When you are auto generating a password, an email will get triggered to this particular person in their email box. So I'm going to uh, just, okay, let it get auto created. I'll just keep this here in my notepad so that later I can use it to log in either of the cases, whether you are creating it here or you are auto creating it by using the other option. A password reset has to be done once the user will try to log in. Okay, that will happen always. If you want to make this user a group, part of a group, you can add the user as a part of a group. If you want to give them any role, so if you'll click on this, it will show you roles, Azure Active Directory roles, directory roles. It is written clearly, right? If you want to give them any directory role, you'll be able to see. I'm not going to give any directory role. Once the user will be logged in, then we'll assign some role to this user, and then we can see what are the differences that is happening. Okay, do you want to block the sign in for this user? User will get created, but he will not be able to sign in. If you want to do that, you can do that. Users location, this is very important. When you are going to enable users for self-service password reset, a location has to be there. If you're not assigning a location, then your self-service password reset will not work. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I need to assign a location. So I am in India, so I'm assigning India as a location, like this. Okay, what is the job title, what is the department, what is the company name, and who is the manager, access review, and other things. So if you want to provide, otherwise I'm not going to provide. I'm just going to click on create. So a user is getting created. User got created. Click on this particular user. Now once the user will get created, you can also do lot of things. You can also edit lot of things. You can also provide lot of things. As you can see, contact info, all these things. What happens when my location is India? If conditional access is enabled, you will not be able to log in. It will not let you log in itself. That is the first thing. And if you are trying to access from US and your location is India, if that identity protection service is running on your account, the Active Directory, Azure Active Directory, so there will be an what is that called? Security incident that will get created, and and maybe it is also possible that your sign in will get denied. So all these things will happen automatically. Okay, so those things are there. Now this is the username that I am having. So let me keep this. Where is this? Okay, let me keep this username. Now let me try to access. So see this, and keep an eye on what all pop-ups that are coming while this user is trying to log in. Okay, so I'll be not doing it again. So just keep an eye on all these things, guys. What is happening now? It is asking for password. I'm clicking on sign in. What is the prompt? Update your password. I have provided the password, old password, and I'm updating a new password for this particular user. Simple process. Password doesn't match. Very good. So let me provide the password that match actually. So come on, man. Okay, it should match now. Sign in. What is the prompt here? Check it. Check this out. Stay signed in. Do you want to reduce the number of times you can mention it? Yes or no? You can mark it as do not show it again. Next time it will not show you again. And as soon as you will click on yes, check this out where it is taking you. It is taking you to the Azure portal, portal.azure.com. Maybe later, go to the subscription. Are you part of any subscription? Is this J is part of any subscription? No, he is not part of any subscription. What is the reason behind that? Guys, what can be the reason behind that this J is not part of any subscription? He does not have a MS account. I have just created an account for J, right? He's part of my directory. No roles has been assigned, right? Correct, Suresh. No roles, no RBAC roles. Be precise. No RBAC roles is assigned so that this particular user can see a subscription. First thing. Now, let me show you one more thing. Go to Azure Active Directory. Can he see things here under Azure Active Directory? Yes, he can see things here. Does he have access to create a new user? He doesn't have an access to create new user. Is he having access to invite a guest user? Yes. Is he having access? Click on that. And he's not having access to create a or invite a user also. He is not having any access on Azure Active Directory rather than reader access. He will not be able to perform a single task on Azure Active Directory. See, lot of things are not showing itself. Password reset, MDM, log sign-ins, lot of things are not showing itself, right? But whatever the things that is showing here, he will not be able to perform any task. He is only having a reader access to your Azure Active Directory. Correct, guys? No custom roles, no delete. He cannot do anything. He cannot do a thing. He can only see. Now, I want this particular user to create users on my Azure Active Directory. What could be the role that I will be assigning to this user? Azure Active Directory role. So if you will go to assigned role, there is a role called as user administrator. So I'm just adding a role to this user called as user administrator role. Okay. Scope directory, right? And then this is the user. Click on next and eligible permanently, I am going to assign this, activate this. Okay, give access and then click on assign. Assigning role to member. Who is that member? J. Now once this J, this role will get assigned. Now let's go again to our Edge browser and then refresh it. Refresh this user. All right. Now let's go to Azure Active Directory. Now let's go to users. It will take some time, but most probably he will be having access to create a new user. Maybe we need to log in and log out, but yes, he will be having access to create a new user on Azure Active Directory. Let me just check one thing quickly. All right. Azure Active Directory users. Okay, it's taking some time. It's not showing up here. Maybe login logout will work. Okay, so we will anyhow we are going to log in log out multiple times for this user. So don't worry. It will show up in a moment. Now this is the first thing. Now what I want is I want to enable multi-factor authentication for this user so that this user, while providing the username and password, even after providing the username and password, I want this user to perform some more authentication. He has to do some more authentication methods in order to log into your Azure Active Directory. So how it can be done, right? So under users, if you'll go, so we are on this particular, I want to go under this one, my directory. So under this directory, under users, you'll be having an option called as MFA, per user MFA, right? So you need to click on this. Once you'll click on this particular small button, it will redirect you to a location where you can enable multi-factor authentication for users, right? Or for groups also. It's not only for users. Okay. Now how you can enable it? So what you need to do here is like, just check this out, and you can also perform a bulk update. So this is per user basis, but if you want to enable it for multiple users at the same point of time, what you need to do is like, you can use this bulk update. So what it will do, it will ask you to browse a file from your laptop, which will be a CSV file, and what format that CSV file should be there. So if you download this sample, and if you'll open this sample, so update this CSV file. Let us open it. So it will ask you few information. Okay, let me show it to you. It will ask few information. So you need to provide username, what all users that you want to enable multi-factor authentication, and what should be the status, enable or disable. And you update this CSV file, and then you upload the CSV file, and at once you will be able to enable or disable multi-factor authentication for users. So right now we are looking at which user? We are looking at J, right? How I am going to enable it? Select this, enable user. Info status, where it is. I'm not sure like where it is actually. Okay, so I will select this and click on enable, and click on enable multi-factor authentication and close. What are you saying, Raghuvendra? Mode or MFA where can be enabled like SMS? I will tell you, Ajay. Wait, just a minute. Info status. Second row. One second, guys. Okay, enforced in the sense because this user is this okay, enforced one. I think so. There is some option where you can enforce this user to have this MFA enabled for all the time. So that is what that particular option is, enforced one. How it came up here? So now this enforce came up. Okay, 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 okay. I got it. So for this Alex, I used this Alex Roy earlier. So what happens, like if once you will enable it, he can, what will happen if your conditional access is not updated, that this particular person has to perform the MFA every time if he's using if he is trying to log in inside by using a AD join laptop. There he need not to perform an MFA. He just have to provide a username and password. But I want this user to perform MFA that time also, and at that particular time point of time we can enforce it. So for this J also we can enforce this MFA. So every time when he will perform the authentication, he needs to have this MFA. He needs to perform this MFA. Okay, so those things, that is that thing. Okay, I was not able to actually recognize it. Okay, now we are under users, this option. There is something called service settings also. So that service settings is something where basically you can add some trusted IPs which can skip your, where you can add some trusted IPs which can skip your multi-factor authentication. So if the request from, so this will be for intranet. When I'm saying intranet, it's private network. Inside a private network, if there are some devices from which user are trying to log in, from there if you want to skip the multi-factor authentication for those users or for those devices, you can mention that IPCIDR range in the same way how it is mentioned there, right? In the same way you can mention it. And if I'll scroll down a little bit, you can use either of these available methods. So what all methods that are available? These are different methods that are available in which users can use any of the methods. Either they can get a text message to a phone, or they can use mobile apps, right? Or they can get a verification code from their mobile apps or the hardware token that they will be having, and they can use any of these things to perform a multi-factor authentication, right? And then once the multi-factor authentication will be done on a trusted device which is AD joined device, what is the time frame after which they need to again provide, after what which they need to again perform the multi-factor authentication. So this is where you will provide the time. After 90 days you need to again perform a multi-factor authentication on the trusted device also. So sometimes in some companies it will be 30 days, it will be 60 days, or sometimes it will be 90 days. Okay. uh, what you have written, Amol? Let me just check. When we enable MFA, it's enabled, and when no. It doesn't go to enforce mode automatically. You need to you need to enable that enforce mode. I don't think so it will go automatically to enforced mode, Amol, until and unless you are not enabling it. I didn't see any kind of scenario in which it is going to enforced mode, but I will check it out. If you are saying it goes, and if you have done some labs in which this is going on, then I will check it out, and I'll get back to you on this point. Maybe next weekend, okay? But as far as I know, it doesn't go. But that's fine. I will check it out, okay? If you are saying, then you must have some experience on that part. Then only you are saying, right? So update successful. Now for this particular customer, or for this particular user, MFA is enabled. What I will do is, like, I will I have enabled the MFA. It doesn't matter even if I'll assign any license. So right now no license is assigned to this user, but before logging in I am just assigning one license to this user, because anyhow we are going to perform self-service password reset, for which this user needs to have at least P2 license assigned so that he can use self-service password reset. So let's go ahead. Okay, let it come up. Meanwhile, what I will do, I'll log out I'll make sure that this user is signed out from the account. And now we will try to sign in once again. With who, with which particular user? With this user J, the one which we have created. Now check this out. I'm trying to log in. What it is showing here, check it out. It is showing required more information. Your organization needs more information to keep your account secure, because just now you have enabled multi-factor authentication. So now you need to click on next. Once you'll click on next, it will take you to a separate page wherein you need to set up your multi-factor authentication. I'm going to use Microsoft Authenticator app. So how you can download this Microsoft Authenticator app? You need to go to App Store or Google Play, and there you will be having an app called as Authenticator. You need to download that. And how to add, I will just show it to you how to add this account. So let it come up, we'll see. Okay, keep your account secure. Start by getting the app. So download that Microsoft Authenticator app. It's already downloaded in my phone. So I'm going to use my phone in order to perform this. Click on next. Set up your account. How to set up your account? If prompted, allow notification. Go and select work and school. So in your account, in your Microsoft Authenticator app, right top corner, click on, tap on those three dots, tap on add account, and then go to work or uh, work or school account, and then click here next. A prompt will come up. Scan this QR code. Once you will scan that QR code, automatically the account will get added here. So I am just adding the account. So account added successfully. Then click on next. Now I have got a prompt here on my phone that will just verify that I have added. So once I'll click on approve, it is showing notification approved, which I have approved from my phone just right now. Now click on next. Microsoft Authenticator app was successfully registered, right? Now you can provide a phone number. You can prove who you are by texting or a code to your phone number. So I'm not going to do this. The reason why I'm not going to do this, because because if I'll update it here, it will ask me again to. Okay, let's provide this then. If it is asking, then provide it India, and then I am providing a phone number here for me. Just a minute, guys. Okay. Mm, I'm just adding the phone number. So yeah, I got the code. And now it will show SMS verified, your phone is registered successfully, right? Now you can click on next like this. Okay, and click on done like this. So now this setup is done. Okay, once the setup is done, you can click on yes, and then you will be able to log in. But the next time, let me log out again and let me log in again. So let me log this user out once again. Okay, and let me log in again. So I'm going to provide the password. Now it is asking me to approve a request that I got on my phone in my Authenticator app. So I am approving the request. Once I'll approve, then only it will let me log into my account. So this is how a user experience will be there to once a Microsoft multi-factor authentication will be enabled, right? Maybe if I'll go to now Azure Active Directory, and if I'll go to users, now this user, this J can create a user, right? So if you will provide some information here, and if you'll provide some information here, then he can create a user. Can you guys see? Now this that rule, it took some time, but now it is applied for this particular J. So if you'll go inside, I'm inside this J account. Inside this, if you'll go under assigned roles of this particular person, I'm just trying to check what kind of access this user is having. So if you'll go under active assignment, you'll be able to see user administrator. He is part of a role called as user administrator. User administrator, right? All right. So this is how a MFA will be set up. Now I am trying to sign out once again for this user. Okay. I'm trying to log in once again, but right now I forgot my password. So I'm clicking on forgot my password. So check it out. It is asking me to provide a username. So my username will automatically pop up. Now I'm providing a this captcha SWGHNK. Click on next. In order to protect your account, text message verification code to set up into your code in an authenticator app. So okay, let me do that. Is it allowing this user to perform this? So 598134. Click on next. Hmm. This user. Just a minute, guys. Okay. Okay. I think they have made some changes in the back. Like they have made some changes. Because what used to happen here is until and unless we will not assign any license to this particular user, right? You will not be able to perform self-service password reset. But right now we are able to perform the self-service password reset for this particular user, which is this one, which is J. But normally what will happen here, we need to assign a license to this user to perform self-service password reset. So if you scroll down here, there is an option called password reset, right? So under this option called as password reset, you can what you can do, you can enable password reset for no one, or if you want to select someone who can actually perform their password reset, you need to add them under a selected group. So you cannot assign or you cannot add a single user under self-service password reset. There should be a group inside which users will be part of, and then that particular group will be added. So there is a group inside this particular active directory called as SSPR. So I will just verify to you. If you will go under groups here, I think provide new password, it might go through error. Yeah, that is possible, Amol. That can happen. So yeah, we will see that. But let me just tell you guys like how exactly you can set up the self-service password reset. Later we will see all those things. So here I have created a group called as self-service password reset, SSPR group, and inside that I need to add the user. So for an example, there is a user called Alex Roy who is already added inside this SSPR group. All right. So once this SSPR group will get created, or any group will get created for which you want to enable self-service password reset, you need to come under selected and you need to add that particular group. So either you can use this group or either you can add any other group. Once this is added, then you need to set up some authentication methods. So while resetting your password, what all authentication methods that you can use in order to reset it? Do you want one authentication method or do you want two different authentication methods that a user has to use in order to reset their password, right? So what all that can be, you can use an app code, like they will get a code inside their authenticator app. They can use their email in order to reset their password. They can use SMS to reset their password, or they can reply to some security questions. And how many security to reply to some security questions, the security questions answer needs to be given at the starting while setting up this SSPR. So you can select some, how many questions that user can select, 3 questions, questions, 5 questions. So user can answer 5 different questions, and while resetting their password, they can answer 3 or 4 or 5 questions. Completely depends upon you how you are going to set it up. And you can also configure which all questions that user may get prompted with. So there are some predefined questions by Azure. So a lot of predefined questions. You can select any 3 or 5 of them depending upon how many number of questions that you want user to answer while setting up their self-certified password reset. Once custom questions. So you can click on custom here. You can type a question and you can add the questions. So like that, and then you can select those questions, and then users can answer those questions while setting up that their SSPR setup. And if in case if they have forgot their password, then they can go through the process in order to answer those in 3 of the questions, in answering 3 of the questions, in order to set their, or in order to reset their password. All right, so this is how you will go ahead and set up self-service password reset. So 2 things are very important. First thing is a license has to be assigned, and second thing, a location has to be updated for the user in order to perform self-service password reset. Any confusions, guys? Any questions? Yes, no, maybe. So these are the same things what I have just discussed right now. SSPR needs P1 at least, P2 licenses for for using these functionalities: identity protection and identity governance. But P1 at least for SSPR. Others, what about others? Is it fine? Is it clear to everyone? Azure Active Directory. I will check out on your question, Amol. Okay, and we'll get back to you on next weekend. So yes. Uh, but if we are good, like I don't think so. There is nothing else that we need to discuss on Azure Active Directory. I have discussed all of things. What all things that we can do. What all things can be. What all things that are there in AZ104. We have discussed all those things. So if there is any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we can end up today's session at this particular point of time. And let's meet next weekend, our last weekend, and we'll discuss about monitoring and serverless computing things. Is SaaS each customer is all in SaaS each customer is a tenant? No, Ajay. No, it's your question is if that is your question, then no. Can we create multiple AAD? You cannot create multiple AAD, but inside one Azure Active Directory, you can create multiple tenants. So if you'll go up here, and if you want to manage your tenants, click like this, and you can ask for one more tenant in Salesforce to use. Each is a tenant in Salesforce to use XYZ and abc.com. Each is a tenant. See, the word tenant is basically connected to Azure Active Directory. So I'm not sure like where is the confusion here, Ajay. In Salesforce, if it is talking to xyz.com or abc.com, it will use Active Directory Federation services, ADFS services, in order to talk to them, in order to talk to Salesforce. Okay. Now here we can create a new tenant. So we have already one tenant. which is this tenant which has been provided by Microsoft Azure, but we can buy one more tenant in our Azure Active Directory. Okay, so if you'll click here, you can actually use one more tenant. You can tell Azure I need one more tenant, but normally it is very rare that companies will go for that, because it will create more confusions in mind of employees. But if a company, if an organization is having two different companies and they want to give the access separate and users separates in those two environments, then definitely they will go for different tenants. That is the concept of multiple tenants inside one Azure Active Directory. So all right guys, so I think so if there is no other question, let's put an end to today's